It started with a simple rule. Never enter the cornfield after sunset. I was 17 the summer I broke that rule. My uncle owned a farm in the middle of nowhere, somewhere deep in Iowa. My parents sent me there every year for a few weeks, some twisted idea of a grounding experience. No Wi-Fi, no phone signal, and a house that looked like it had been forgotten by time. The place was surrounded on all sides by corn, endless fields that seemed to stretch forever. I'd always found them unsettling, rows so tall and dense you couldn't see more than a few feet in, even during the day. The wind made them rustle constantly, whispering secrets to each other like they knew things you didn't. My uncle had one rule, just one. Don't go into the corn after the sun goes down. Ever. He said it in a tone that didn't leave room for sarcasm or jokes. When I asked why, he just stared at me for a moment before replying, "You hear things in there, things that want you to answer." I laughed, thought it was just a creepy story to keep me from wandering. But I should have known better. Farmers don't waste words. The first few nights were normal. Boring, sure, but peaceful. Then, one evening, just after dinner, the power went out. The house was old and the outages were frequent, so my uncle just lit some candles and went out to check the fuse box in the barn. I stayed behind, reading by candlelight in the living room, barely keeping my eyes open. That's when I heard it. Rustling, not wind, not an animal. Footsteps, software, rhythmic, like someone walking through the corn. I stood up, heart beating faster, and moved to the front window. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in dark reds and purples. From the porch, I could see the cornfield swaying unnaturally. And then I heard it, a voice, faint, distant, but unmistakable. "Help me." It was coming from the field. I froze. "Please, someone." It sounded like a child, maybe 10 or 11 years old, crying, desperate. Everything in me said stay inside, but something pulled me. Some deep part of my brain wanted to help. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped out into the humid air, calling out, "Hello? Are you okay?" No answer, just more rustling. I walked toward the edge of the cornfield, and as I did, the air felt wrong, heavier, thicker. "Help me." It was closer now, just beyond the first few rows. I took one step in, then another. The flashlight flickered. "Please, I'm lost." I turned the beam toward the sound, and the stalks shifted as if something had just passed between them. I should have turned around. Instead, I pushed forward. After maybe 10 steps, the flashlight died completely. Just like that. I smacked it, twisted it, but nothing. It was dead. And suddenly the rustling stopped. Silence. Utter choking silence. That's when I realized I couldn't see the house anymore, or the sky. Just walls of black stalks all around me. Then the whispering started. Not from one place, from everywhere. Voices in every direction, some familiar, some not. "Come closer. She needs help. Why did you leave me?" My blood ran cold. One of the voices was my mom's. Another sounded like my best friend back home. Then I heard my own voice, calling for help. I turned and ran. Branches slapped against my face. The corn seemed to reach for me, grabbing at my clothes. I sprinted in random directions, heart pounding in my ears, panic taking over. And then I ran straight into someone. I fell back hard, hitting the ground, but there was no one there, just the corn. I got up and ran again, blindly crashing through stalks until I saw a faint light, a candle flickering in the distance. I burst through the corn and collapsed on the front porch, covered in scratches and dirt. My uncle was standing at the door holding a lantern. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with the saddest eyes I've ever seen. "I told you," he finally said. "I told you not to go in." I tried to explain what I'd heard, but he just shook his head. "They know your name now." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I packed up and begged my parents to pick me up early. I never went back to that farm, but some nights, even now when everything is quiet, I swear I can hear the corn rustling outside my window, and sometimes I hear myself whispering for help